All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya. Krishna Priyeshaya Bhagavate Srimate Bhakti Vikas Swami. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing our seminar from this morning on the Sloki of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We'd like to thank our new audience who showed up in spite of the freezing cold. It's probably the coldest day in Atlanta, right, this year, in the year 2024. So, thank you for showing up. So we are doing a seminar on the most important Cha Atmani Tat Vidyat Atmanaha Mayam Yatha Abharsaha Yatha Tamaha Rizetam Yat Pratiyeta Na Pratiyeta Chatmani Tad Vidyadatmano Mayam Yata Bhaso Yata Tamaha Rizetam Yat Pratiyeta Na Pratiyeta Chatmani Tad Vidyadatmano Mayam Yata Bhaso Yata Tamaha Rizetam Yat Pratiyeta Na Pratiyeta Chatmani Tadvidyadatmano Mayam Yata Bhaso Yata Tamaha Rizetam Yat Pratiyeta Na Pratiyeta Chatmani Tadvidyadatmano Mayam Yata Bhaso Yata Tamaha. Please repeat.
Na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yata bhaso yata tamaha Ritirtam yat pratiyeta Na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yata bhaso yata tamaha Ritirtam yat pratiyeta Na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yata bhaso yata tamaha
Ritirtam yat pratiyeta
Na Pratiyeta Chatmani Tadvidyadatmano Mayam
Yatha
Bhaso Yata Tamaha
Ritirtam yat parityati Na priyeta chatmani Tad vidyat atmano mayam
Tadvidyadatmano Mayam Yata Bhaso Yata Tamaha Ritirtam Yat Pratiyeta Na Pratiyeta Chatmani Tadvidyadatmano Mayam Yata Bhaso Yata Tamaha Ritim without artham value, yet that which pratiyeta appears to be, na not pratiyeta appears to be, cha and atmani in relation to me, tat that vidyat you must know, atmanaha mind. Mayam, illusory energy. Yatha, just as. Abhas, Mahotsaha, the reflection. Yatha, as Tamaha, the darkness. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality, know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. So as we had requested, we hope all the devotees here have led this purport, right? Okay, so we're going to be continuing where we left off from earlier this morning in regards to this seminar and this whole thing. And we're going to try to somehow or the other go through, if not all of them, at least most of the points by 8 o'clock. So it's going to be a class until 8 o'clock. So please, try to pay attention, try to soak it in, because understanding these verses is the most important thing for us. So, as I promised, I told everyone that I would pull up, I would tell you exactly where the reference is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is speaking about the Catuh Sloki. So you can pull up Madhya Leela chapter 25, text number 102. Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. The essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam, our relationship with the Supreme Lord, our activities in that connection, and the goal of life is manifest in the 4 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Catuh Sloki. Everything is explained in those verses. So this is the exact reference I was talking about, and this is the conclusion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also, of course, and of course also the conclusion of Krishnadas Kaviraj. So we can see that this is the conclusion, and we can also see that if we pull up Adi Leela, text 7, Adi Leela chapter 7, text number 146, we can go over here and look at this also. And this is the conclusion of Lord Chaitanya, where he says, one's relationship with the personality of Godhead, activities in terms of that relationship, and the ultimate goal of life, develop love of God. These 3 subjects are explained in every aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra, for they form the culmination of the entire Vedanta philosophy. So we should understand this, that everything that we are seeing in the Vedas and Puranas and Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra and everything speak about 3 things. What are the 3 things? Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, which means that we understand our relationship with Krishna, we understand our how to perform devotional service and how to attain love of God. So these are 3 things which are mentioned in the Vedic literatures, and that's what we are focusing on. So we were going over many different sections of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and going back to verse number 33, there's a few points which would need to be covered. So who has the phone? Can someone who is efficient in using this actually take over? Okay. So 2:9:33. So over here we can see that, okay, great. So in this, so we heard already. So what's the word which is repeated 3 times in this verse? So what is the thing that the Supreme Lord is specifying more and more? That he is a person, right? So now we can look at the word Yat. So Yat in this regard means Brahman, actually. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is referring to Brahman over here in this verse. He's referring to it. And Prabhupada gives a very amazing analogy to understand this entire word, Brahman, actually. And there's another purport of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Srila Prabhupada is Adi Leela number 54, Adi 154. So over there, Prabhupada gives this very amazing example, or amazing meaning of Yat. So we can, no, that's, so is that Yat? Go back one more. Okay, yeah. So keep going now in the purport, please. Okay, Aham, keep going. Keep going, Prabhu. Keep going. Yeah, keep going. There, okay. So, Prabhupada says over here, the word Yat refers to Brahman, the impersonal effulgence of the Lord. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Tad Brahma Nishkalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam. The Brahman effulgence expands unlimitedly. Just as the sun is a localized planet, with the sunshine expanding unlimitedly from that source, so the Absolute Truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his effulgence of energy, Brahman expanding unlimitedly. From that, and then this is a very amazing example. Okay, so we understand this. From that Brahman energy, the creation appears just as a cloud appears in the sunshine. From the cloud comes rain, from the rain comes vegetation, and from the vegetation comes fruits and flowers, which are the basis of subsistence for many other forms of life. Similarly, the effulgent bodily luster of the Supreme Lord is the cause of the creation of infinite universes. And it's a very amazing way of actually understanding this. That, see, the Mayavadis, again, like I was speaking earlier this morning, they're very expert at just like having a philosophy and coming up with an example and try to prove a philosophical point from that example. Whereas the Vaishnava philosophers do the exact opposite, where they see that, okay, this is what Shastra is saying, and to explain what the statement of Shastra says, they give an example, like Srila Prabhupada is doing over here. That, we see Brahmano hi pratishtaham, that, Krishna says all these statements, we can see that everything is subsiding on the energy of Brahman. So we can see just like how the sun is there, from the sun's energy. The sun is a person, then there's a sun planet, there's a sunshine, and from the energy of the sun, which is the sunshine and the heat coming out of the sun, clouds are formed. When clouds are formed, there's rain, and when there's rain, there's vegetation, and from vegetation, like this, life goes on like this, from the energy of the sun. So similarly, the Brahman effulgence, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, gives rise to infinite, innumerable universes in this material world, actually. So this is a very important point to learn, very important point to note. And we can see over here that, this, I'll be going over this more, but you can look at the words again of the Sanskrit here. So there's Sat, Asat, and Param. So we can see this over here, right? Sat, Asat, Param. So if you look at the word-for-word translation, Prabhupada, he says that, or at least in the purport, he says Sat means effect, and Asat means cause, and Param refers to the ultimate truth, which is transcendental to cause and effect. So we can see Sat, Asat, and Param. So that Krishna is a cause of all causes. We read in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachitananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna is a primordial cause. He's the cause of all causes. And because Krishna is the cause of all causes, he is transcendental to everything else which exists in this material world. He's transcendental to all these things. It's a very important point to understand and note. That Krishna is transcendental to all these different things which are present in the material world, which appear to be mundane. Krishna is transcendental to them. But although Krishna is transcendental to them, a person with proper vision and the person who is not in Maya looks at them in their relationship with Krishna. And that is a sole differentiator of a person who is in illusion and of a person who is not in illusion. It's a very important point to note. That, a person who is not in illusion sees things relationship with Krishna, whereas a person who is in illusion is completely bewildered and does not see things relationship, the relationship of things with Krishna. That's a very important point to understand. So we can see that over here that Sat and Asat, that the effect and cause are there, but Param refers to the ultimate truth, and this is already transcendental. Param is already transcendental. So Prabhupada says over here in the end of this purport, Prabhupada says this very important thing, where he says that if one should be attached to the root of everything rather than bewildered by the branches and leaves. That is the instruction given in this verse. So what is the instruction of the verse given here? The instruction of the verse given here is that one should be attached to the root of everything. So you can see that the tree is there. The tree may be amazing, the fruits may be amazing, the branches may be amazing, the leaves and all that may be amazing. But the very existence of the tree is the root. So we are concerned with the root of everything. We're concerned with the cause of everything. We're concerned with the person who is making all these things happen. We're concerned with the supreme eternal being, Krishna. And by understanding this, instead of being bewildered by all the branches and the leaves, if we understand the root of everything, which is Krishna, then we actually are not in illusion. And that is the instruction of the verse that is given over here. That's the instruction of this verse. So now going to the next verse in verse number 33 or 34. Ritetam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyad atmano mayam yata bhasho yata tamaha. That we can understand this. And in this purport, what's the main point that Prabhupada is going at? All of you read it, assuming. What is the purport? What's the main point of the purport that Prabhupada is going at in this verse? No one remembers? As you all read it yesterday, what's the point? Are we so forgetful? No one remembers anything? What does Prabhupada say? Not even one point comes to your mind. There's 5 pages purport. Mataji, you also. We asked you to read it. No one remembers? Such dull brains? What a shame. We can see over here that some of the points that Prabhupada mentions, in this purport, is that the difference between Yogamaya and Mahamaya. The main point that we have to understand in this purport is the difference between Mahamaya and Yogamaya. Understanding the difference between the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Yogamaya, the transcendental energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we understand the difference between Mahamaya and Yogamaya, and we understand how everything is simply a transformation of the Lord's energy, then we can actually see everything in its relationship with Krishna. The minute we start to look at everything and see that they are separate, things are separate to Krishna, then we are supposed to be called Maya. If we don't realize how things are related to Krishna, we are in illusion. So this is a very important point. It's a very important point. And Prabhupada in Adi Leela chapter 1, text number 54, gives this amazing translation too. He says, and as such, whenever there is forgetfulness of this prime relation with the Lord, and whenever things are accepted as real, are you pulling it up? Yeah. Okay. No, this is Adi Leela chapter 1, text number 54. Okay. So this is the translation. Please look at the translation of this. What appears to be truth without me is certainly my illusory energy, for nothing can exist without me. It is like a reflection of real light in the shadows. For the light, there are neither shadows nor reflections. So this is a very important point to understand. That in the light, we can see that when there's sunshine, in the sunshine there is no shadow. There's no shadow in the sunshine, nor is there a reflection. But without the sunshine, there is no conception of darkness, and without the sunshine, there is no conception of a reflection. Although both these things, although the shadow and the reflection they have a relative relation, they have a relationship with Krishna, or they have a relationship with the sunlight. The sunlight is completely transcendental and above all these other things. Right? Does this make sense? That the sunshine and the reflection is dependent on the sunshine. And the shadow is also dependent on the sunshine. But the sunshine is not dependent on any of these other two things. It's a simple thing to understand. So these two things are relative. Shadow is relative and reflection is also relative. We can have a full conception of shadow and we can have a full conception of sunshine without the shadow and the reflection. We don't need it. But we can see that these two things are dependent upon the sunlight. The minute one turns away from the sunshine, then one will actually see that there's a shadow forming behind his back. Right? When he's turning towards the sunshine, there's a shadow forming. And then there's also reflection which is formed. So all these things which are here in this material world are simply relative truths. We can see all these things are relative truths, and they're completely dependent upon Krishna. But if we do not see the relationship with Krishna, then that lack of sight and the lack of understanding its relationship with Krishna is known as Maya, is known as illusion. So we should understand this point. And Prabhupada writes in this purport over here, as such, there's forgetfulness of this prime relation with the Lord. And whenever things are accepted as real without being related to the Lord, that conception is called a product of the illusory energy. So we can see that Krishna is making this point very well. In order for us to understand Krishna in truth, in order for us to go back to Godhead, we need to understand Krishna in truth. Tattva. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjana. That when we understand Krishna in truth, then, and the truth of Krishna's transcendental appearance and activities, then we will no longer have the effect of repeated birth and death. No longer. We won't have the effect of it. We will be completely transcendental to it because we have this proper understanding. And once, Prabhupada asked his disciples, why is it that the Mayavadis, they don't get liberated, or why is it that the Mayavadis don't get love of Godhead? And there were so many different answers, but one answer which pleased Srila Prabhupada a lot was that they didn't have Bhakti Vedanta. Which means that they didn't have a proper understanding of the Vedanta, and it also means that they didn't have a proper, they do not have a bona fide spiritual master, Bhakti Vedanta. So we see that the proper knowledge is needed. The proper knowledge is needed. In order for the proper knowledge to be there, a person must have a proper philosophical understanding. And, we can see that in this material world, there's so many philosophies which are there, which blocks one's relationship to Krishna. It blocks one's relationship to Krishna. And because it blocks one's relationship to Krishna, a person may not be able to understand the right way of worshipping Him. That's why we see, you can pull this up in the Adi Leela, and we're going to be looking at a few verses over here in order to understand all the things that Srila Prabhupada is saying. We're going to be going through a few purports. But understanding this should be giving us great bliss and joy and not putting us to sleep. So we can see this in the Adi Leela, chapter 7, text number 41. There's this verse. Sannyasi hai ea kara gayana nachana, na kare vedanta pata kare sankirtana. So this is, we can see this over here, that Lord Chaitanya is in Varanasi and he's performing his ecstatic Sankirtan Yajna. He's going and he's having a great time glorifying Krishna. He's doing everything for the enjoyment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's being enjoyed by Krishna. And of course, the Mayavadi sannyasis, they blaspheme Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They say, although a sannyasi, he does not take interest in the study of Vedanta, but instead always engages in chanting and dancing in Sankirtan. And the purport is very amazing. Fortunately or unfortunately, we also meet such Mayavadis who criticize our method and accuse us of not being interested in study. They do not know that we have translated volumes and volumes of books into English, and that the students in our temples regularly study them in the morning, afternoon, and evening. We are writing and printing books, and our students study them and distribute them all over the world. No Mayavadi school can present as many books as we have. Nevertheless, they accuse us of not being fond of study. Such accusations are completely false, but although we study, we do not study the nonsense of the Mayavadis. And then Prabhupada goes on to say over here, so this is a really important point, and it's going to get technical starting from here. Mayavadi sannyasis neither chant nor dance. Their technical objections is that this method of chanting and dancing is taur yak trika, which indicates that a sannyasi should completely avoid such activities and engage his time in the Vedanta study. Although such men do not understand what is meant by Vedanta, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Vedesha sarver ahameva vedyo Vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Lord Krishna is the actual compiler of Vedanta, and whatever he speaks is Vedanta philosophy. Although they are lacking the knowledge of Vedanta presented by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental form of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Mayavadis are very proud of their study. It's really amazing. Now, Prabhupada says, foreseeing the bad effects of their presenting Vedanta philosophy in a perverted way, Srila Vyasadeva compiled Srimad Bhagavatam as a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Srimad Bhagavatam is Bhashyo Yam Brahma Sutranam. In other words, all the Vedanta philosophy in aphorisms of the Brahma Sutra is thoroughly described in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, the factual propounder of Vedanta philosophy is a Krishna-conscious person who always engages in reading and understanding the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and teaching the purport of these books to the entire world. The Mayavadis are very proud of having monopolized the Vedanta philosophy, but devotees have their own commentaries on Vedanta, such as Srimad Bhagavatam and others written by the Acharyas. The commentary of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas is called the Govinda Bhashya. The Mayavadis' accusation that devotees do not study Vedanta is false. The Mayavadis do not know that chanting, dancing, and preaching the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam, called Bhagavad Dharma, are the same thing as studying Vedanta. Since they think that reading Vedanta philosophy is the only function of a sannyasi, they do not find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in such direct study, and they criticize him. Sripad Shankaracharya has given special stress to the study of Vedanta philosophy. Vedanta Vyakeshu Sada Ramanta Kopina Vantaha Kalo Bhagyavantaha. A sannyasi accepting the renounced order very strictly and wearing nothing more than a loincloth should always enjoy philosophical statements in the Vedanta Sutra. Such a person in the renounced order of life is to be considered very fortunate. The Mayavadis in Varanasi blasphemed Lord Chaitanya because his behavior did not follow these principles. Lord Chaitanya, however, bestowed his mercy upon these Mayavadi sannyasis and delivered them by means of his Vedanta discourses with Prakashananda Saraswati and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So we can see this over here, that the Vedanta study which is there, the knowledge given to us in the Shastras, knowledge given to us by the previous acharyas and all this, is very deep and very profound. And the full conclusion of all the study of the Vedic literature and all this and all that should be to chant and dance the holy names of Krishna. Chant and dance, singing the holy names of Krishna. That is the conclusion of all Vedic knowledge. The proper conclusion of all this is Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yatanchasya Didavrataha Namasyantasya Mam Bhaktya Nitya Yukta Upasate. That we should constantly be engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the goal of whatever we're doing. That is the goal. The goal is to become a Mahatma. Not a politician, but a real Mahatma. Mahatmana Sumam Partha Daivim Prakriti Mashataha Vajantinanya Manaso Gyatva Bhutadamavyayam. That a great soul, who is a great soul, who is a Mahatma, Mahatmana Sumam Partha, is one who is protected by the spiritual potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Daivim Prakriti Mashata, Bhajanti Ananya Mana. So he is constantly always thinking about Krishna. He's constantly always understanding Krishna. Gyatvam Bhutadam Avyayam. So then we can understand too that what is a qualification for receiving proper knowledge? What's the qualification? Lord Chaitanya says, Sunadapi Sunichena Taroriva Sahishna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Lord Chaitanya says this point. And it's very important for us to understand that, this is a very, what does this mean? Trinadapi Sunichena, that one should be considering, one should consider oneself lower than a blade of grass on the street. One should consider oneself lower than a blade of grass on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree. And he should give respect to others and not accept any respect. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy names of the Lord constantly. So when we have this mentality, when we have such an understanding, then this knowledge will actually be very easily transferred over to us. There is no need for anything else actually. If we have a proper understanding, we surrender to a bona fide spiritual master, then that itself is a Mahavakya. What need is there for anything else? But those who are puffed up by their false learning, this is called false learning. Why? Because you can have a very amazingly complex mathematical equation, and you could have 4 or 5 boards explaining your great mathematical equation. But if you have a simple miscalculation that 1 + 1 is equal to 3, your whole mathematical equation is completely bogus. Why? Because the most basic mathematical equation, the most basic calculation was a mistake. 1 + 1 is 2, 1 + 1 is not 3. But because a simple mistake is made, the whole equation is also completely useless. So similarly, because the Mayavadis do not understand this very simple truth, it's a very simple truth, then they suffer in this material world. We can see this in Adi Leela chapter 7, text number 42. It continues to say, these Mayavadis are continuing to blaspheme Lord Chaitanya. They say, this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an illiterate sannyasi and therefore does not know his real function. Guided only by his sentiments, he wanders about in the company of other sentimentalists. So, the purport is very important. Foolish Mayavadis, not knowing that the Krishna consciousness movement is based on a solid philosophy of transcendental science, superficially conclude that those who dance and chant do not have philosophical knowledge. Those who are Krishna conscious actually have full knowledge of the essence of the Vedanta philosophy, for they study the real commentary on the Vedanta philosophy, Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the actual words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as found in the Bhagavad Gita as it is. After understanding this Bhagavata philosophy or Bhagavata Dharma, they become fully spiritually conscious or Krishna conscious, and therefore their chanting and dancing is not material but is on the spiritual platform. Although everyone admires the ecstatic chanting and dancing of the devotees, who are therefore popularly known as the Hare Krishna people, Mayavadis cannot appreciate these activities because of their poor fund of knowledge. You see? That this is the essence of all Vedic knowledge, is to actually perform the Sankirtan Yajna. This is a very simple thing. But because of having this mentality, because of having this demoniac mentality, people are unable to appreciate the great teachings, the great teachings that the Acharyas have given us, the great teachings of the Vedas, the great teaching of the Upanishads and the Puranas. Why? Because people love to speculate. Why? Because when you're given the tool of speculation, then your God complex multiplies like crazy, actually. You know, that let's just say you have a little knowledge of Sanskrit and you can sit and you can speculate, oh, it means like this, oh no, it means like that. And let me speculate a little more, let me speculate a little more, let me speculate. And and then you come up with your own philosophy. And then what happens is, you may be fasting. Many Mayavadis, they're very, very austere actually. They fast, they may not eat much, they may be very renounced, and all these things. Their bodies may be fasting, but their egos are feasting. Big, amazing egos like this. The size of the ego is actually very amazing. And the ego grows so big that because of this misunderstanding of the absolute truth, and because of their misconception of all this, the ego expands to the degree that they think they are God. We are all God, but I am more God than you. That is the philosophy of the fools, actually. Think, yes, I am God, you are God. And we can see and we can understand how foolish this thing actually is. That if, again, I think I was just speaking about this recently, but it's a very good example to give again and again. That, if I were to say that I am actually Joe Biden. If I said I'm Joe Biden, would anyone believe me? No. If I told you not only am I Joe Biden, everyone is Joe Biden. That is even more insane, isn't it? And people will think, okay, this guy is crazy, put him in the loony asylum. But then, if you say, I am God, people, oh, that's completely fine. Not only am I God, we are all God. That's also completely fine. But it's actually the most amazing level of insanity. That's why the Mayavadis are called insane people. So, we can see this over here. Where is this? Okay, you can look at the next verse in purport. Hearing all this blasphemy, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu merely smiled to himself, rejected all these accusations, and did not talk with the Mayavadis. And the purport is really amazing, actually. As Krishna-conscious devotees, we do not like to converse with Mayavadi philosophers simply to waste valuable time. But whenever there is an opportunity, we impress our philosophy upon them with great vigor and success. You see, it's not like, oh, okay, anyway, let's just run away. But when there's an opportunity, then we impress upon them our philosophy with great vigor and success. We impress this upon them. Why? Because there's knowledge given to us in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why this knowledge is chit. It is perfect. That we should always talk the spiritual knowledge. And because there's no loopholes in the Bhagavata philosophy. We actually challenge anyone in this world to buy a full set of Bhagavatam and try to find loopholes in it. Please try to do that. Please try your level best to somehow or the other find some loopholes in the Bhagavata philosophy. But the truth is, that will not happen. Why? Because there are no loopholes. So many people have tried and failed. So, as this goes on, and we can see this is it's very related. All these purports are very related to the purport of this 34th verse of the second canto, 9th chapter, which if you don't remember, I would again request devotees to please read again and refresh our dull brains and understand these points, because all these points which are being made are being focused on this. They're being focused on this purport. And understanding this is very important. Why? Because verse number 33 and verse number 34 helps us understand Sambandha, helps us understand our eternal relationship with Krishna. We have to understand these points very well. Because when we understand this, then we can perform devotional service very easily. One must not be lazy. Again, Siddhanta balya chitte nakaro ala siha haite Krishna lagi shuddhida manas. We should not be lazy in understanding Siddhanta. Should not be lazy in understanding the proper conclusion of the Vedas. Should be very focused. It should actually be our goal. one of the things that I really wanted to do was get into Drig Drishya Vichar, but I may not have time for that. Therefore, I'm just going to continue focusing on the difference between the energies of the Supreme. That's exactly what this verse is speaking about, right? Understanding what is illusion and what is not illusion. Understanding how everything is related to Krishna, and how to understand how everything is related to Krishna, and not the other way around. So, we can see this over here. Srila Prabhupada explains, I made a few notes here. Okay. So one very amazing thing that the Mayavadis really like to do is, at least one, how about that? I'm going to ask you one question from this. There's one example that the Mayavadis like to give a lot, that you mistake one thing to be another. What is that thing? The rope and a snake. Thank you. Rope and a snake. So this is actually one of the Mayavadis' most favorite examples to give. And in order to understand this, we can go to Adi Lila chapter 7, text number 122. This chapter is so amazing actually that Srila Prabhupada had this chapter be put into one book. You know the name of the book? It's called Lord Chaitanya and 5 Features. Anyone read this book before? It's a BBT publication. It's a very amazing book actually. I strongly recommend reading this book or reading this chapter. Prabhupada wanted it to be distributed especially to the Mayavadis. So we can see this over here. And actually, before I get into this, I made a few notes here. Okay. So we should understand that the main problem. So what is the main problem? What is the main reason why we are in illusion? What is the main reason why the Mayavadi philosophy is so crazy? It's simple. I'm going to break this down. It's a very simple thing to understand, but it's a very important thing also to understand. That the whole crux of the Mayavadi philosophy is this: that the absolute truth that the absolute truth does not have energies. That when we see all these different transformations going on in this material world, like the living entities, a transformation of Krishna's energy, the material world is a transformation of Krishna's energy, right? Everything that we see, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. That there's one Supreme Eternal. From this one Supreme Eternal, all other infinitesimal and infinite eternals come about. And this one Supreme Eternal is maintaining all of them. And we also know this other famous verse from the Shastra, Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. Does it sound familiar? Anyone who's reading Prabhupada's books will find this very familiar. Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has multifarious potencies. He has multifarious energies. And all these energies, because they're coming from Krishna, who is factual, they are also factual. Right? So this is a proper understanding according to Shastra. But the Mayavadis, but Shankaracharya, what he did in order to establish and propound his Mayavad philosophy, what he did was, this is known as Parinamavad, and a misunderstanding of Parinamavad, where he says that the absolute truth does not have energies, but it is the absolute truth himself who transforms into all these various energies. You see, the absolute truth. So Brahman became all these living entities. Brahman became like this whole Maya and all these things. So Brahman broke apart. But the proper understanding, and we read this a very simple verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text number 5. Apareyam atvasanyam prakritim vidhime param jiva bhuta mahabaho yedam daryate jagat. And before that, bhumi rapo nalo vayu kammano buddhir evacha ahankara iti amme bhinna prakritir astada. Krishna is explaining very clearly. And then after that he says, etad yonini bhutani sarvani tripadharaya aham krishnasya jagata prabhavav pralayastata. And after that, matav parataram nanyat kinchidasi dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. Now let's look at these verses starting from 4, please. That actually can okay, I'm just going to take a water break. Sorry. Okay. Krishna says, these are my separated energies: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 constitute my separate energies. Then, next verse. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine which consists of the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material world. And then one more. All created beings have their source in these 2 natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. You see, the Catuh Sloki is right here. The point is being made right here. This is the point. Krishna is saying the exact same thing in the Catuh Sloki. Right? Aham evasa evagre. I was there before, I was there after too. I'm there in the middle also. Krishna is making this point. He's again making this point over here. I know. And then the next verse. Next verse. No, before that, sorry. Mata fartaram nanyat. Okay. There is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls strung on a string, on a thread. So Krishna is saying all this over here. He's making this very clear. That there is no truth superior to Krishna. Krishna understands. Krishna helps us put everything in proper perspective. But we see over here that the Mayavadis, they come up with all these kinds of insane philosophies. So now you can go to Adi Leela chapter 7, text number 122, where we're going to read this and we're going to go back to a different verse. Parinama, I want to read the Bengali because it's very amazing. Parinama vade Ishvara hayana vikari, eta kahi vivarta vada sthapana ye kari. According to Shankaracharya, by accepting the theory of transformation of the energy of the Lord, one creates an illusion by indirectly accepting that the absolute truth is transformed. This is a fallacy of the Mayavad philosophy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments that if one does not, remember, pay attention, if one does not clearly understand the meaning of Parinamavad or transformation of energy, one is sure to misunderstand the truth regarding this material cosmic manifestation and the living entities. In the Chandogya Upanishad, it is said, Sanmula Somyama Praja Sat Ayata Sat Pratishtaha. The material world and the living entities are separate beings. See? And they are eternally true, not false. Shankaracharya, however, unnecessarily fearing that by Parinamavad, transformation of energy, Brahman would be transformed Vikari, has imagined both the material world and the living entities to be false and to have no individuality. By word jugglery, he has tried to prove that the individual identities of the living entities and the material world are illusory, and he has cited the analogies of mistaking a rope for a snake. Does it sound familiar? Rope for a snake, where did we read it? In this purport itself. Or, where is that? Yeah. Or an oyster shell for gold. Thus he has most abominably cheated people in general. And now this next purport is very important because we understand the basis of where the rope and the snake philosophy came from. Where did this come from? Where did the rope and the snake philosophy come from? Now the source is given over here. The analogy of misunderstanding a rope to be a snake is mentioned in the Mandukya Upanishad. But it is meant to explain the error of identifying the body with the soul. Since the soul is actually a spiritual particle as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke, it is due to illusion, Vivartava, that a human being, like an animal, identifies the body with the self. This is a proper example of Vivarta, or illusion. The verse, Atatvo Nyata Buddhir Vivarta Ityudharataha, describes such an illusion to not know actual facts and thus to mistake one thing for another, as for example, to accept the body as a self, is called Vivartavad. Every conditioned living entity who considers the body to be the soul is deluded by Vivartavad. One can be attacked, now listen to this, one can be attacked by the Vivartavad philosophy when he forgets the inconceivable power of the omnipotent personality of Godhead. So here, Also, one more verse, Prabhupada says, how the Supreme Personality of Godhead remains as he is, never changing, is explained in the Isha Upanishad. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. God is complete. Even if a complete manifestation is taken away from him, he continues to be complete. The material creation is manifested by the energy of the Lord, but he is still the same person. His form, entourage, qualities, and so on never deteriorate. Now, this is very important, okay? Please look at this. And we were speaking about this earlier today. Srila Jiva Goswami in the Paramatma Sandarbha comments regarding the Vivartavad as follows. Under the spell of Vivartavad, one imagines the separate entities, namely the cosmic manifestation, the living entities to be one with Brahman. This is due to complete ignorance regarding the actual fact. The absolute truth or Para-Brahman is always one and always the same. He is completely free from all other conceptions of existence. He is completely free from false ego, for he is full spiritual identity. It is absolutely impossible for him to be subjected to ignorance and fall under the spell of misconception. The absolute truth is beyond our conception. One must admit that he has unblemished qualities that he does not share with every living entity. He is never tainted in the slightest degree by the flaws of ordinary living beings. One must therefore understand the absolute truth to possess inconceivable potencies. Like I was saying earlier today, Jiva Goswami makes this point that it's inconceivable. The potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are completely inconceivable. So, we see this, that, we should understand. I guess I won't be able to finish this whole section over here, but, we can understand this very important point, very simple point, that the absolute truth's energies are transformed. The absolute truth himself does not transform. And because of this, a living entity can have an eternal relationship with Krishna. We can even see this in the most basic teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 12. Natvam evaham jatanasham, natvam neme janadipa, nachaiva na bhavishyama, sarve vaya mataf param. Right? Over here. Right? Go back, please. Let me make sure I got the Sanskrit right. Okay, all right. Never was there a time that I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Krishna makes it very clear that we are always existing, individually, separately. There's never a point of time where we all merge into Krishna. We don't merge into Krishna. We don't commit spiritual suicide. That is not our program. That is not our policy. That is not our philosophy. Our philosophy is not to commit suicide, whereas our philosophy is to have an eternal life in relationship to Krishna. That is our philosophy. That is our goal, actually. We don't want to do just like merge. Like, many people ask, okay, so, and they give an example that, just like a drop in the ocean, we'll just merge right back into the ocean. And it sounds very like poetic and flowery and amazing, but when the sunshine is there, that the drops may evaporate again and they may go away somewhere else. Therefore, the Vaishnava philosophy helps one understand that instead of simply aiming to be a drop in the ocean, why don't you be an aquatic in the ocean? And you can stay forever in the ocean. You don't have to be separated from that ocean. We can swim in the ocean of the nectar, of devotion. We can swim in that ocean of loving exchanges with Krishna. Ultimately, everyone wants to be happy. If you look in this material world, where does happiness come from? Happiness comes from relationships, right? The mother feels the greatest joy being with her child, right? The mother feels very happy being with the child, and the child feels very happy being with the mother. Relationship is there. If you see, friends also, when friends are all there together and they're having a good time, it's really amazing. Rasa is there. So everyone likes to have relationships. Everyone likes to have friendship. So to completely remove this whole conception of being a person and having a personal relationship with Krishna is the greatest crime against the living entity. It's the greatest crime. It's called Jiva Himsa. To promote such philosophy, to promote such things like this is actually a very, very great, it's a great crime. Why? Because when these things happen, then by nature, you're removing a very amazing, loving relationship. And then what ends up happening is that the living entity ends up becoming more and more demoniac. The living entity becomes more and more demoniac. And because the living entity becomes more and more demoniac, they fall into this ocean of material existence. And because they fall into this ocean of material existence, then the amount of tribulations that the living entity faces is very, very high. It's very high. Chandan, can you come in? Sorry, excuse me 1 minute. So we can see this over here, that the most important thing to understand that we're a person now, and we're always a person. The Supreme Personality of Godhead also is always a person. God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is also always a person. And our personal relationship and our relationship with Krishna is also eternal. But the one mistake that we should understand is that although, yes, we are persons, we are in this material body. We are in this material body. But the body of Krishna is transcendental. There is no difference between the soul and the body of Krishna. But for us, there's a difference between our body and the difference between our soul. Why? Because we're an illusion. Why? Because this is made of matter. This is made of matter. Our body is made of matter. And matter by nature is always decaying. The matter by nature is always decaying. We can say, that, we may have been very amazing looking at one point, but then after some time, the beauty fades away. All these things fade away. So, we see this over here also, that everything in this material world fades away. But the beauty of Krishna is eternal. Krishna is eternal. Krishna's beauty is eternal. Krishna's beauty is ever increasing. And it's the duty of the living entity to be completely attached to the beauty and the form of Krishna. By understanding this and by seeing everything's relationship with Krishna, then we can actually transcend this material world and have the same nature as that of Krishna. Wouldn't it be nice to not have no more birth, death, old age, or disease? That would be such an amazing situation. Where there's always tribulations in this material world. So many things are always attacking us from different ways. It's an assault on our senses. But the bliss of Krishna consciousness is so amazing. That's why the essence of all advice. What's the essence of all advice? A nectar of instruction, text number 7. Tannama rupa charitadi sukirtananu smrityo kramena asana manasini yojya tishtan vajetadanu jananu. Sorry, the verse after that, I think. Yeah. Tishtan vajetadanu jananu gami kalam naida kilamithyupadesha saram. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. So this temple is Vrindavan. And if you perform devotional service guided by the devotees, we are actually following this instruction. That Tulsi Maharani is here, everything is here. Everything that is needed is here. Therefore, if we simply pay attention to this, and if we simply focus on chanting this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then we could just focus on this Maha Mantra and attain our eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. So I'll end the class over here. And we can go on with the seminar. There's so many more things that I have to go over. We'll go on with them tomorrow and day after and the day after that. But I'll stop the class over here. If there's any questions or comments in this regard, we can take them. Anyone has a question? Something?
Pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, these jnanis, he debates with them a lot, and eventually they become devotees.
Yeah.
Is that? I've read a little bit, that you've allowed me to read this Chaitanya, Chintaharinam Chaitanya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions some things in there. And is there more examples of where jnanis, those are particularly attracted to the impersonal form, where they come in touch with devotees, and then they become. That transformation takes place? Because at least within our experience so far, there's a very few cases.
I mean, see, also one thing is that the Mayavadi philosophers, Prabhupada, that's one place. Prakashananda Saraswati was still confused after meeting all this. But we also see that the four Kumaras, they are Gyanis. They got attracted. They're like the glaring examples are actually Gyanis. Of course, the other example, you're reading the Bhagavatam, Atmarama Shimunayo, Nirgantapi Rukrame, Kurvantyahetu Kim Bhakti Mittam Bhuta Guno Harehe. That, Shukadev Goswami, he also was a Brahmavadi. He was a Gyana. At least he performed the pastime of being like that. But then he got attracted only by 3 verses of the Bhagavatam, actually. One is this Nigama Kalpataro. The other one is Aho Bakiya. Like how amazing is the mercy of Krishna that he even, even gave a great position for Putana. And then there's another verse. So even, Shukadev Goswami, he was also like that. So we can see this, and there's more examples if you read Shastra, we can think. Another one coming to the top of my head. No, not really. Druma just had a desire, but we can at least see these 2 examples, and I'm sure if I think more, I could come up with some. So yeah, there's examples of that, and even in our own relation, even in our own experience, we can see that some people may be just attracted to knowledge, and when they start reading Prabhupada's books, they become completely convinced, like we're saying Caleb, right? Yeah. Whatever the situation may be, like, he got attracted for the knowledge in Prabhupada's books, and then they change. It's just most people don't have the higher knowledge, therefore they think this is the ultimate knowledge. But, there's, once they're given this higher perspective, then. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, but the Mayavad philosophy, they accept that Krishna has a form, but they see it as a material form.
So it's very simple. So I'm going to go into this more detail in the classes to come about. But the Mayavadis perform this very insidious activity, where where they say that the form of Krishna is simply a transformation of the mode of goodness. You see that they say that the form of Krishna is simply a transformation of the mode of goodness, and the mode of goodness personifies and comes as Krishna. That's what they say. And therefore, like the form of Krishna is actually not the form of Krishna is actually not spiritual. That's what they say. So that's what they think. I mean, there's another group of Mayavadis that they are very attached. They pretend like they're very attached to devotional service, where they say that the form of Krishna is actually transcendental, but ultimately above the form of Krishna is Brahman, and he merges into it. There's 2 schools of Mayavad. One is like this hardcore, Shankarite thing where they say it's completely illusion. Krishna's form is illusory. But there's another more dangerous school of Mayavad. Say Krishna's form is transcendental, but ultimately he merges into the Paravyoma. He merges into Brahman. So these are the 2 schools of Mayavad actually. And the latter is more dangerous than the first one. So anyway, I'll go more detailed into it. But do you have anything?
Okay, yeah. So, and this is why they can't understand that Krishna can disperse himself into so many different energies, but still remain complete in himself.
Exactly.
Because they see himself as being material, so they can't see anyone in their experience.
So the basic thing is that once the Supreme splits himself into so many things, then how can he still be? The stupid example of a piece of paper. Can you put all the pieces of paper back together? It's a very simple thing. Yeah. Is that okay?
Just confirm, more understanding on the aspect of transformation, because that was like a technical detail that you're going over. From what I understand, when they say transformation, that seems to be the wrong idea, right? That's the Brahman transforms.
Yeah, exactly. That's their fallacy.
Is the proper understanding expansion?
The energies of Krishna. Yeah, that's the right understanding. Right. The right understanding is the energies of Krishna. That's why I read Bhumi Rapunala Aparayam Etad Yonini Bhutani. All these, that's why I read these verses specifically to drive home this point. That is the energies of Krishna which are transforming, not Krishna himself. Just like, there's this example of yogurt and curd, milk and yogurt, But the substance is the same. It's Krishna's energy which is being transformed. The energy of the milk is being transformed. And that, they use that to see that, milk is transformed into yogurt, right? So then they say, but where's the milk now? So they use an example to make their philosophy strong, but that is not the right example with what happens in Krishna's pastime. That's why in this purpose, Prabhupada gives the example that a very rich businessman may be there, and you can see how like all his energies are being like expanded in so many different departments. Like, he may have the marketing department, and he may have the sales department, and he may have like the department to do more research into like making his product better. And he may have another department to do this or the other thing. And then for some foolish person, it may appear that actually there's no person behind all this. But behind all this, there is a person. Right? Behind all this, this department, that department, this department, there is a person. A person is the one who's actually like making all these things happen. And Prabhupada writes, he may be involved in royal comforts. Anyone remember in the purport, Prabhupada says this specifically. The rich man may be involved in royal comforts, but like this, all this other stuff is going on too. So that is a transformation of the businessman's energy. So if such is true of an insignificant businessman in the insignificant part of this material world, what to speak of the supreme transcendental person?
So in terms of, so you've got the internal, marginal, and external energy. So do those remain as, they're all coming from him, so, they're at the same time non-different from him?
Yeah, it's like, that's our philosophy, Achintya Beda Beda, simultaneously one and different.
But do they, it's not that the marginal energy is a transformation of the internal energy, and the external energy
so
is
it's coming from Krishna's potency, right? So it's coming from Krishna's potency, just like, so the sun is the light, the transformation of the sun's energy, yes and no, right? That's how you understand. Is the heat a transformation of the fire's energy, yes and no?
It's not that like the sun is there first, and then there's is it similar?
But it's simultaneous, right? It's not like the sun comes, and after the sun, all of a sudden light comes out of the sun. It's not like that. It's simultaneous, right? So that's Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. Simultaneously, all these things happen. The sun rises, the sunshine comes, the heat comes, the energy generated, everything can happen simultaneously. That's why Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. That this verse is very important, and Prabhupada hammers this verse. Almost every other purport, Prabhupada hammers this verse over and over again. Why? Because if the Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate, if the person from whom the energy is coming is factual, why isn't the energy also factual? So the Mayavadis say, this person is not factual, or this person is factual, but the other stuff is not factual. That is the crux of Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya.
There's no person, right?
There's no person. Yeah. Or Brahma, and actually, anyway, since we are here, one thing also is that Brahman, if you actually look at what Brahman means, the Mayavadi's understanding of Brahman and the way Vyasadeva said Brahman are two completely different things. Brahman is just another generic word for God. It's just like a more general word. Like if I said God, okay, everyone knows, okay, what the God, everyone knows what you're talking about, God, okay, all right. But Brahman is like that. Actually, that's the word. But the Mayavadis like twisted it to mean, this, something else. But Brahma Jyoti is different. The way Vyasa intended it is wrong. And then, anyway, since we're here also, one more point is...
So you said the way Vyasa intended it is wrong. You're saying the Mayavadi...
So yeah, the way Vyasa intended it is correct, and the way the Mayavadis intended it is wrong. And anyway, since we're here also, the Shastra says very much, and again, another misinterpretation of the Mayavadis is too much fertile brain and world jugglery, is that the Shastra says that the body of Krishna, the transcendental supreme person is Asharira. Right? It's an Asharira. But what does that mean?
That he has a transcendental body.
Right. But if you literally look at that word, what does it mean?
I say nobody.
Nobody. But that's wrong. You know why? We ourselves are influenced by this Mayavadi understanding. The right meaning of the word, Sharira means one that decays. You have a body and the body decays, right? So many things in the body decay, like, the skin is decaying, and when the body dies, it completely decays away. So the Supreme Personality of God has a body that's Asharira, which does not decay. So that's the proper understanding. So many things, and then I'll get more into this. There's so much nectar, actually. Yes, Sharan, Deep.
Prabhu, in the morning you were saying that there is a school of Mayavadis who also do Kirtan.
Yeah, Madhusudana Saraswati, headed by him.
I see.
Yes.
So they do Hare Krishna Kirtan or some...
You know what they do? Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hari. And that's the same, they stand this tune, it's so creepy. It's like filled with their Mayavad influence, you can feel it. Yeah, they do kirtan too, but it's like, and they have tilak too actually. They wear a very similar tilak to us.
Okay, okay.
You know, so. Yeah, they wear this without, so they have the madhva, the kind of a madhva tilak. This follows of Madhusudan Saraswati. And those guys are, I mean, and everything that comes later is also the offshoots. Now, like this is a bogus guy, he has like a Sri Vaishnav tilak along with a Gaudiya Vaishnav tilak. What a good, very good. You forget his name, I forget his name, Krishna is so kind. You know, so yeah, you know, they're all these people and they're like, you know, they have all these weird, like this guy, you know, he has like a Sri Vaishnav tilak and then he's worshipping Sai Baba and also, what's this rascal from Bengal? Ramakrishna. They're worshipping him. Vivekananda also. Oh yeah, that fellow. Yeah, that guy. They worship everyone like this. It's completely ridiculous, actually. All on the same platform. You know. So yes, that's Bhakti Marg.
I had another question.
Yeah.
How do Mayavadis explain Krishna lifting Govardhan hill?
I mean, Brahman Sattvagun got really powerful and they lifted it, but ultimately it's all illusion. They can't explain it actually. There's no, how do you explain it? Well, you know, let me try to understand. You will never understand because they themselves don't understand. Actually, you know, I wanted to read some more purports and all these things. And Prabhupada just straight up calls them insane. Prabhupada says these people are straight up crazy, retarded actually, just insane. Because none of it makes any sense. Especially from a logical point of view, it doesn't make any sense. You know, so how do they explain? They don't, you know, it's just like, but the thing is they don't find a need to explain it. Like, you know, they get into the bhav and then when the bhav is done, they emerge, it's over, finish. We got what we wanted, you know. The gopis and Krishna, they love each other so much and then they embrace each other and the gopis merge into Krishna. What? Where did that come from, you know? So like, you know, there's this superimposition, you know, like, Mayavad's philosophy is an artificial superimposition on the mind, whereas Krishna consciousness is not a superimposition, like not an artificial superimposition. It's natural. It's a transcendental. It's just the very, very nature of the spirit soul is to have a loving relationship with Krishna.
Okay.
You know, so yes. Anything else? Yes. I'm giving preference to the people who attended the seminar in the morning too, because we decided to leave time. Yeah.
During our reading retreat today, I was reading this section of the Science of Self-Realization, and it was that letter conversation back and forth with Srila Prabhupada and this university professor at Berkeley.
Uh-huh.
And this kind of discourse that we've been having reminded me of that, where the Prabhupada basically like hammers on this point about how it's the point of studying the Vedas that we should do this Hari Kirtan. And the professor is like, well, you know, actually this person says this, and actually one other person makes the Sanskrit to flip it and make it this way. But Prabhupada's like final point was that we're followers of Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself, and he's shown us the process of this Hari Kirtan, and shown us that this is the way that we should actually do it. And that just kind of shows like the difference between our philosophy and this Mayavadi philosophy, where they're just like, oh, you know, actually it might be like this, and they speculate in this way and that way, and they just kind of use their brain to try to understand it. Versus we just kind of say, okay, Lord Chaitanya said this, our acharyas say this, so this is what we follow.
And it's not on the whole point of the seminar is not on like some sentimental platform. You know, it's very deeply rooted in Shastra. You know, like all the arguments that we're making, why we chant, all these things are deeply rooted in Shastra. You know, oh, your acharya said that, acharya said so, therefore we do. It's not, you know, that's there of course, but why do our acharyas say what they say? Why is someone an acharya? You see, why? Because the acharya knows what Krishna wants and establishes it on the basis of Shastra. That's why. That's the point, you know. And we'll go more into it the next few days. Anything else from those who are in this morning? Okay, no? From here? Yes, John, you raise your hand? Okay. Anyone else have a question?
This sort of It's basically, as you were saying about merging into the ocean. But the point is that everyone still retains their own individuality.
Yeah, exactly. That's why that the example of merging into the ocean is wrong. And the example given is like being aquatic in the ocean. Because even though you're in the ocean, it's like you're an aquatic in the ocean. Another example is given that, the Mayavadis love, oh, wow, this is like one of their favorite examples that, like there's like a green tree. And the green tree has green fruits. And then two parrots go and sit on the branches of the green tree, and then they merge into the tree. But this doesn't make any sense. Why? Because, okay, the parrots are green and the trees are green and the fruits may also be green, but the parrot is a parrot, the tree is a tree, and the fruit is a fruit. It's common sense actually, But for those who don't have common sense, that's a big problem. Anything else? Matajis? Okay. All right, so yeah, we'll have kirtan for 15 minutes and then we can go downstairs for prasad. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.